Will the cannibal appear in House of the Dragon? Everything we know explained. Warning, spoiler warning. Before we begin, this video contains spoilers for House of the Dragon and Fire and Blood. We'll discuss the mysterious wild dragon known as the Cannibal, whether HBO is likely to introduce him, what George R.R. Martin's book says, and why his appearance could completely change the way viewers see dragons. With that said, let's get started. One question has been growing louder with every new episode of House of the Dragon. We've seen Vhagar, we've seen Caraxes, we've seen Syrax. We've now seen Sheepstealer. But where is the Cannibal? For book readers, the Cannibal is one of the most mysterious dragons ever created by George R.R. Martin. He's enormous, wild, completely untamable, and unlike every famous dragon in the dance, he never fights for either side. So naturally, fans have begun asking, will HBO finally bring the Cannibal to the screen? The answer isn't as straightforward as you might think. Let's break it all down. The Cannibal already exists in the show's world. First, let's clear up one important misconception. Just because we haven't properly seen the Cannibal doesn't mean he doesn't exist. During the Dance of the Dragons, Dragonstone is home to 3 legendary wild dragons: Sheepstealer, Grey Ghost, and the Cannibal. These dragons aren't owned by House Targaryen. They don't live inside the dragon pit. They've survived for decades completely on their own. The show has already introduced Sheepstealer in a major way. Grey Ghost has also been acknowledged. That leaves only one famous wild dragon still waiting in the shadows. So, from a lore perspective, there's absolutely room for him to appear. Why hasn't HBO introduced him yet? This is probably the biggest question. If the Cannibal is so famous, why hasn't he already appeared? The simplest answer is because the main story has never required him. Remember, House of the Dragon isn't really about dragons. It's about a civil war. Every dragon introduced into the series serves a purpose. Vhagar represents overwhelming military power. Caraxes represents Daemon. Syrax represents Rhaenyra. Sunfire represents Aegon. Sheepstealer expands Rhaenys' journey. Every dragon pushes the human story forward. The Cannibal doesn't, at least not in George R.R. Martin's original book. He exists more as a terrifying legend than an active participant. That makes him much harder to naturally include in the television adaptation. What does Fire and Blood say? Interestingly, Fire and Blood never gives the Cannibal a major role in the dance. Despite being one of the largest dragons alive, he never chooses Team Black. He never joins Team Green. No prince rides him. No battle features him. Instead, he stays on Dragonstone, hunting, watching, living entirely according to his own instincts. George R.R. Martin almost treats him like a force of nature. He's always there, always dangerous, but completely indifferent to human politics. That's part of what makes him so fascinating. Could HBO expand his story? Now this is where things become interesting. One thing we've learned from House of the Dragon is that HBO isn't afraid to change the books. Perhaps the biggest example is Rhaena claiming Sheepstealer. In Fire and Blood, that role belongs to Nettles. The television series completely changes that storyline. That tells us something important. The writers are willing to expand, rewrite, or even invent new scenes if they believe it improves the story. So just because the Cannibal stays in the background in the books doesn't mean the show has to do the same. In fact, many fans believe HBO has the perfect opportunity to give the Cannibal a much larger role. How could the Cannibal be introduced? Imagine this. Daemon is flying across Dragonstone. Everything seems peaceful. Then, far below, he notices movement. Not another rider, not an army. A massive black dragon standing over the corpse of another dragon, slowly tearing it apart, eating it. Caraxes roars. The creature looks up. Its green eyes lock onto Daemon. For just a few seconds, neither dragon moves. Then, the cannibal simply returns to feeding, as if Caraxes isn't even worth acknowledging. No dialogue, no music, just silence. That single scene would instantly tell viewers everything they need to know. This dragon doesn't care about kings. He doesn't care about war. He doesn't care about House Targaryen. He's the ruler of his own world. Could someone try to ride the cannibal? This is another popular fan theory. Every time a new dragon appears, someone inevitably asks, what if Daemon tried? Or, what if Rhaena claimed him? The problem is, the cannibal isn't like other dragons. According to Fire and Blood, several people attempted to approach him over the years. None succeeded. Some never came back. Others fled in terror. No one ever formed a bond. Unlike Sheepstealer, who eventually trusted a human, the cannibal rejected everyone. If HBO follows that aspect of the books, it's highly unlikely anyone will ever ride him. And honestly, that may be exactly why fans love him. He's one dragon that never becomes anyone's weapon. Would the cannibal change the war? Now imagine something even bigger. What if the cannibal actually joined the dance? The consequences would be enormous. Both Team Black and Team Green desperately need dragons. Adding another giant wild dragon could completely shift the balance of power. But here's the problem. Who controls him? Nobody. That's what makes the cannibal so dangerous. If he attacks, he isn't choosing sides. He's choosing prey. Imagine both armies preparing for battle, only for the cannibal to suddenly appear. He wouldn't care which banner soldiers carried. Black, green, it wouldn't matter. To him, everyone is simply food. That unpredictability could make him even more terrifying than Vhagar. The symbolism of the cannibal. Perhaps George R.R. Martin never intended the cannibal to become another battlefield dragon. Perhaps his true purpose is symbolic. Think about it. The Targaryens spend generations believing dragons belong to them. They build an empire around that belief. Then comes the cannibal, a dragon that refuses every rider, ignores every command, lives entirely outside Targaryen control. He represents something the family hates admitting. Dragons aren't possessions. They're living creatures. Some simply refuse to serve. In many ways, the cannibal is nature reclaiming its freedom from human ambition. Will HBO actually show him? So, what's the most realistic answer? Nothing has been officially confirmed. Neither HBO nor the show's producers have announced plans to feature the cannibal. However, as the series moves deeper into the dance, the opportunity becomes much greater. We've already seen more dragons with every season. Visual effects technology continues improving, and the cannibal has become one of the most requested dragons among fans. Even a brief appearance would generate enormous excitement, especially among viewers unfamiliar with Fire and Blood. What if HBO gives him an original storyline? There's another possibility. Perhaps the show doesn't simply adapt George R.R. Martin's version. Perhaps it expands it. Imagine the cannibal attacking Dragonstone after the Civil War weakens dragon defenses. Imagine him hunting surviving dragons. Imagine Daemon attempting to drive him away. Or imagine Rhaena encountering him while flying Sheepstealer. None of those events happen in the books, but neither does Rhaena claiming Sheepstealer. The writers have already shown they're willing to create new material. That means the cannibal's future is far less predictable than many fans assume. Final thoughts. So, will the cannibal appear in House of the Dragon? The honest answer is, we simply don't know. The dragon absolutely exists in George R.R. Martin's world. He's one of Dragonstone's 3 legendary wild dragons, and nothing in the television series suggests he has been removed from the story. At the same time, the books never make him a major player in the Dance of the Dragons, so HBO isn't obligated to build an entire storyline around him. But if the writers decide to expand his role, the cannibal could easily become one of the most unforgettable dragons in the entire franchise. Not because he fights for Team Black, not because he serves Team Green, but because he serves no one at all. Perhaps that's why fans are so fascinated by him. Every other dragon becomes part of human history. The cannibal remains something much older,
much wilder and far more mysterious. He's the one dragon that even the Targaryens could never truly understand. And maybe that's exactly why he continues to capture our imagination decades after George R.R. Martin first introduced him. So, what do you think? Should HBO keep the cannibal as a mysterious legend lurking in the background? Or would you like to see him receive an entirely new storyline that wasn't even in Fire and Blood? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more House of the Dragon explained videos, dragon lore, hidden details, and Fire and Blood mysteries.